Good afternoon, everyone. I am Vasundhara, and on behalf of Shine.com, I welcome all of you to Shine HR Live today. Topic for today's discussion is Bounce Back 2021, how HR will lead the recovery, and this will be divided in two parts. Panel discussion for initial 40 minutes and Q&A for 20 minutes. We will also be having a fun activity in between where we will be taking a virtual group picture and virtual background for the same will be shared with you shortly. I would request all the attendees to keep posting questions in Q&A segment and speakers will answer your question in some time. In case you want to speak to our panelists directly, please raise your hand virtually so that we can allow you to speak. Now, I would like to introduce our panelists for today, Ms. Tanvi Choksi, Chief Human Resource Officer at JLL, Mr. Manoj Sharma, Head HR AEML Adani Electricity Mumbai Limited, and Mr. Sameer Bendre, Chief People Officer at Persistent Systems, will be moderating the session. I would again request all the attendees to please keep posting questions during the session. Mr. Bendre, over to you now.
Hey, thank you. Thank you, Vasundhara. First of all, good afternoon, everyone. I know it's just post lunch time. So here is an activity for all of you to really wake up and enjoy a very afternoon session, which we have on a very interesting topic, which is Bounce Back 2021. We have seen a very challenging last 2020, the pandemic striking, people changing their way of life in any and every way we can imagine. Today, as we have the vaccines coming in and the work starting back to a lot of people coming back to work, the world is also seeing a bounce back. The questions which are always being asked is, hey, Vasundhara, can you make me the this thing? I think the spotlight is on you.
So spotlight is on everyone right now.
Okay, no, because I can only see your black screen. So, okay. So as we come out of this pandemic, or we start coming out of this pandemic with the vaccines and other taking over, there's always a question asking that there is a bounce back, the industry, the world is coming back. There have been questions asked, who will be leading this world, this bounce back, whether it will be the business, whether it will be people, which are, and this is where I think HR really comes into the forefront. For once, after many years, we not only have a seat at the table, we are actually driving the table. Once when you're driving the table, when you look at that position for yourself, here is where an opportunity for us to really lead this bounce back. What we will today be discussing is that different aspects of HR, which we can really look to address when we try to bounce back. We'll try to sort of cover a few topics based on this, which I will have my panelists, co-panelists with me, Manoj and Tanvi, really express their ideas. And then we'll look forward to questions from you. We'll try to look at how will we bounce back with respect to the whole talent acquisition. We'll look at how we can bounce back with respect to talent management. And more, we'll also try to look at how we will ensure that as the world changes, we will all ensure that all people remain relevant. Before I ask my co-panelists to really talk about and share these points, let me just quickly share my few thoughts on what really it means for HR to lead and what talks about this bounce back. When you look at the overall role of HR, we always talk of different type of questions which people talk about. We think that, hey, people need to look at having a strong EQ, a strong IQ, strong social questions. One more new questions and now really come into play, which I nowadays call adaptability question. And when we look at the adaptability question, that ability to judge it, ability to judge that people can really adapt to the new world, new changes which will constantly be happening. This is where HR will be able to really judge people, tell people that this is where, how we can really, how you can really adapt to the new world and you can be successful. And with this thought that people, we will have to lead the new world into the changes we'll have to adapt. We'll have to adapt to the way we work. Our work-life balance will change. The concept, the definition of work-life balance itself will change from the traditional work-life balance where we say that there is a time when I spend at home, I spend at work, today, because most of us are working from home, and it will have to be a much more harmony, much more integration with this. This will lead to different stresses for people, different challenges for people. They will work on one side. This will also on the side give a lot of opportunities to people. And that is what we would like to really hear from my co-panelists first and then from questioners. So with this small preamble, let me first ask, I'll start with Tanvi, you first, for your thoughts. Tanvi, I would like to hear your thoughts on how will we really look at talent acquisition in the new world, and how will we sort of play a stronger role in talent acquisitions going forward than what we have been playing, where we have been primarily taking job descriptions from the business and then looking at finding people. Rather, now, how will we lead this particular activity? So over to you, Tanvi, to share your thoughts.
Thank you so much, Samir. And I think you very well put that, it is the bounce back where we're not just, as HR, we not just have a seat at the table, but we truly are in a position to drive the conversation and drive the business in the direction that makes sense for the business, with people at the center of it all. And it's an opportunity unlike what we've had in the past. So I think it is our responsibility as HR professionals to grab the opportunity and actually make the most of it. I think coming to your question, and how do I think talent acquisition is going to change? What can we do as HR professionals to really drive it differently? And I think before I get to talent acquisition per se, it's really the skills that we are looking for, which in my view have changed quite significantly. You talked about adaptability quotient as one of the things that has become very important. But in my view, there are 5 skills that, based on research and some thought, I think have become really important. The first one is social intelligence and people management. I think in a virtual world, when we are going to have hybrid teams that, partly working from home, partly working in office, how do we manage social intelligence, interactions with one another? And for managers, how do they become better people managers in a more complex world, right? I think people management as a skill is something HR has focused on for a long time. But it was in an environment when everybody was in office. And now to do that in a hybrid work environment is even more challenging. So that's definitely one. Second is adaptive thinking. And that's similar to what you mentioned around adaptability quotient. So, I'm not getting into too much detail on it, but we need people to be adaptive. Third is cross-cultural competencies. I think we do need people to be sensitive to different cultural dynamics a lot more today than they have been in the past, because we're not interacting face-to-face. So we're not able to see, the physical movements of a person, the expressions, etc., that could give you a sense of what the person is thinking. Are they comfortable? Are they not? So having a lot more cross-cultural competencies are going to be more important. The world has become smaller and even closer than it was before. Fourth is computational thinking. I think using data to make decisions and multidisciplinary thinking. We've gone into the world of hyper specialization for many, many, many years. But what COVID has taught us is we need people to think broad based, because there are problems that could come up in different places. And we need people to have a little bit of understanding of many things to reach the right decision. So how do you use data across multiple disciplines to make decisions? And lastly, virtual collaboration and negotiation has become extremely important. So these are the 5 skills that we are focusing on, and using that in talent acquisition actually has been a big mantra for us. We have, of course, adopted, like many others, various virtual talent acquisition technologies. We're using ways to connect with people. We are hiring people. So even in the last year, we've hired almost 2,500 people in JLL through March till pretty much till date. Which is a massive number. It is much lesser than what we would in a normal year, but it's still a massive number in terms of an absolute number. These 2,500 people have been hired fully virtually and have been onboarded fully virtually, trained fully virtually, and are working without ever seeing the inside of an office. So how do we bring them in the right culture and allow them to be productive in their jobs and have a good people experience is all parts of what we need to sort of work on. So it's very important that we think of these new skills and then bring in the right talent in the organization through various modes that we are using, Samir. So I think that would be my little bit on this topic.
Yeah, thank you, Tanvi. I think some very good points there for you to make. So let me quickly move to Manoj. Manoj, when we look at talent, it's getting talent is one part, but ensuring that the talent is rightly used, given the right type of allocations are done. And today, when you don't meet people face to face, you're only dependent on sort of meeting them virtually. And like Tanvi said, she has hired 2,500 people whom not only she, nobody in the organization would have been met, onboarded virtually. In this case, as a talent management, that the role becomes very critical. So I have a little more detailed question to you on this. Suppose if you were to go to the CEO and say that the CEO to ask you that, hey, Manoj, I want you to lead the sort of recovery which we are doing from a people perspective. What are the 3 or 4 main points which you would take to him, saying that here is from a talent management perspective, talent allocation perspective, these are the 3 things which we should do differently this going forward. So over to you, Manoj, for your thoughts.
Thanks a lot. I think Tanvi has very rightly pointed out and very detailed elaboration on the competencies on which the organizations would be focusing. And from talent management point of view, I think the 2020 crisis has already shaped the 2021 HR agenda on talent management. What we have done differently, I'll just share in a minute. I'm referring to a study that was carried out by Hackard. So what they have said, there are 4 themes which are globally, which are predominantly being accepted by the professionals, where 41% believe conditions will stabilize by the second half of the 2021. And 36% predict it will change, maybe it will take a little longer. Only 23% expect that stability can be very soon. Now, if we see that what is the dramatic shift in virtual work is a case in point. So before the crisis, 4% of general and administrative staff worked primarily from home. 13% had hybrid arrangements. Working between home and office, that was a kind of a hybrid people had followed. And we also followed like that only. Post-crisis, these percentages will rise. Now, that will depend upon the industry in which we are. Like we are in the, or we are an organization which supplies electricity in the Mumbai. So it's a 400 square kilometers with 3 million consumers, where 80% of the staff is already spread in 400 square kilometers. They can't avoid going to the field. But what will happen to the rest? Earlier, we had thought only 10% the population they can operate. Now we are thinking maybe the back office people and the IT and HR, finance, they are already equipped to work from the office, from the home. So we have created a hybrid type of arrangement also. This study primarily focuses on the 4 major themes. Those are the emerging enterprise themes that is going to influence the HR transformational agenda. So one is people, and third is cost, and fourth is digital acceleration. When we talk about people, I've already highlighted on the shift, that is the virtual work. That is going to require a lot of significant reskilling and innovation of a lot of management techniques. Companies will tap into an increasingly global talent pool. So if I look back or I refer to my own group, a lot of, the talent is available. Now the organization can pick, choose. The demand is going to be less at this point of time and supply will be very high. So organizations will have opportunity to pick, choose. So there will be a high degree of competition. That is what is expected. On performance management side, it will evolve from measuring activity and task-based productivity to business outcome-based. Because if we are talking about recovery phase, so it's a high centricity on teamwork and collaboration that is expected when we are talking about business results. And companies are also focusing on diversity and inclusion that is taken as a priority during this time. On risk side, the key issues that study highlights a major increase in business risk across the board, from supply chain disruptions to cybersecurity to regulatory, like we are in regulatory business. There are many regulatory businesses in the country like mining and the coal and all that B2B businesses, and maybe the telecom also, to economic implications of prolonged pandemic related restrictions that has happened. So people related risk such as access to new skills. Now we are talking about reskilling and upskilling. To my mind, I can give an example of the pilots. When the pandemic happened, they lost their jobs. All the aviation industries was grounded. The Christopher, I think, who was flying the Airbuses, so he had to undergo a transformational change as far as his own job was concerned. The transferable skills that could match to the job requirement, that was the major challenge during this time. So that will remain a challenge for the organizations where the reskilling is required. So are these skills transferable to the new job requirements, or that will get totally redundant? Maybe a new set of skills that is required. So the availability of such talent in the market, that is going to be sieved and filtered and viewed from a different lens. Cost of the labor, and that is going to be very, very important if very different skill sets that are required, which will be embedded more from digital acceleration point of view. So from cost point of view, maybe the prevailing crisis, recovery conditions, cost takes very center stage to the businesses. Now HR must manage both its own operating cost and support broader enterprise cost management initiatives. That is going to be very, very significant cost cutting, and maybe the increased workloads in straining many organizations that is seen in the study also. Digital maturity is a major factor in companies' ability to respond to the crisis, creating competitive differentiation. So many companies have taken the lessons to their heart and plan the acceleration for the entire enterprise to go for digital transformation. So we have also taken many initiatives where manual transaction used to happen, or there had been very less focus on the HR part, where the AI used to can actually play a major role. The chatbots can answer to the queries raised for the HR policies. So those are the initiatives which are on the center stage, and that is what we are looking for. So from this talent management point of view, we have done a major transformation. We wanted to go closer to the customer. So that is also another challenge. We have done totally reorganization. So maybe B2B, it will be very different operating model now. So I think those are the major initiatives. Maybe I'll come back on the next questions. Yeah.
So thank you, Manoj. So before I come to you, Tanvi, again to talk a little bit more on talent management, because I think both of you have sort of touched on the third aspect of skilling as an important factor, whether it is looking at talent acquisition or in the talent management space. There's one mantra which people have now been talking of quite a lot, is saying that it's never not going to be talent management anymore. It's always focus is going to be on talent development. And that is the message which we as HR leaders will have to take to our management, saying that just don't try to manage this talent. The way things are moving, the way opportunities are going to come, the way we are going to get more and more global in the workforce, where people are going to be working from anywhere, anytime. You will not just, if you try to manage this new talent, it's going to be a disadvantage, but you need to focus on how really you want to develop talent. So any thoughts from you, Tanvi, on what really does this really mantra make sense, and how we should really sort of be telling the management, saying that, hey, we are leading you towards the new generation, which can make a business impact, the growth impact, which you are all looking for. So,
Yeah.
Tanu, some questions from you.
Yeah. No, thanks for that, Sameer. And absolutely, I think I agree with the mantra that you talked about, that it is the world of talent development. And I think if there is one part of the whole HR processes piece, or one part of HR which is leapfrogged many years forward, it is definitely learning and development as a result of this pandemic. I think when the lockdown just started in mid-March, end of March in 2020, I think the first reaction of a lot of organizations was, of course, how do we send our workforce to work from home safely and ensure that they have the tools, technology to work from home. But very quickly, it then shifted to, okay, now they're working from home, but clearly work is impacted quite a bit because everyone was just trying to work from home, which meant, it impacted actual working, because most companies were focusing inward. And, like Manoj said, B2B companies probably were a bit more impacted. So JLL, again, in the real estate space, we have a very, very different workforce. In one part, we have a workforce, almost 30% of our workforce never worked from home, because we manage facilities for other organizations, for residences, for essential services like banking, etc. So that workforce needed to be at site in safe conditions and provide counsel to our even clients on how should they manage this for their employees. But we had another side of the workforce which was suddenly at home, and their clients, which are the corporates, are not working and are focusing inward. So what do we really do with that time that became available? And I think L&D was a great go-to opportunity that HR saw and business saw to engage the employees, but at the same time to focus on their development, because never again we were going to have this opportunity where people can dedicatedly focus on their own learning, development, connect, etc. And at JLL, I think we made true on our investments of the past. So it's not like we, had to suddenly scamper and start investing in L&D. JLL has always had a lot of focus on learning and development, even pre-pandemic. But all those investments actually came to even greater fruition as a result of the pandemic. So we have a tie-up with LinkedIn Learning as an example for our learning programs. And we have more than 15,000 courses available for our employees through LinkedIn Learning. So our learning and development team was able to very quickly come up with recommendations for different groups based on skills, requirements, etc. And some of the skills that I talked about in terms of hybrid working, managing remotely, connecting remotely, virtual business development, virtual connections, virtual client servicing, and many such need of the hour our learning programs were launched for the teams to assimilate and learn fairly quickly on the job. And we also use this opportunity to focus a lot on wellness, because as much as we're talking about learning and development, it was wellness that has been hugely impacted and has come into massively in forefront for organizations. That how do we really help the employee as a whole, not just the part that comes to office and is contributing productively to the organization, but really the whole person, and focusing on whether it is physical wellness, mental wellness, emotional wellness, and financial wellness of the employee. And a lot of our L&D resources focused on that whole wellness piece of an employee as well. And we've created a resource hub where a lot of these materials continue to exist, and we continue to do workshops, seminars, etc., that allow people to engage on various wellness related aspects for themselves and their families as well through this time. And the third thing we realized is, besides this, was creating groups of people, because one thing we definitely missed after the first few months of working from home is the informal connections, right? And I think many of us have talked about the coffee machine conversations or the canteen conversations where you would randomly bump into people as you're walking through office, which clearly didn't happen. So we created a lot of forums, including certain ally groups of various kinds that allowed people to come together in an organization, but in informal setups based on either common, interests or certain common issues. And they could come together and talk about their common problems and find solutions for them as well. So I think, the perspective of learning and development or employee development is not just for work, but truly for employee development as a whole, like ensuring the employee develops, uh, you know, as a whole person, emotionally, and, in other aspects as well. You're on mute, Samir. Yeah.
Sorry. No, I think very interesting point, especially the whole wellness coming into forefront and really impacting us. And I remember taking this to my management maybe a month or two back. If you look at the way it happened, once when the pandemic struck, first fortnight or a month, we were struggling to go online and everybody working from home. Once we started working from home, everybody came back. Not only the productivity of the employees have not dipped, but it has actually improved. And people saying that, hey, this may be the new normal. We have been hearing news everywhere, topic that more than 75% of the people will now come and continue to work from home, and this is how it will be. But here are some interesting statistics which have now started emerging, which is very differently seeing that, yes, productivity overall has not really dropped significantly because of people working from home, though there is a fraction drop in productivity, but that could be because of any other seasonal reasons too. But that is from an organization perspective. The organization is not seeing too much of a productivity drop. But from an individual perspective, things have changed quite a lot. Typically, when the person was in office, she or he would spend 6 to 8 hours to get that work done. Today, she is stretching herself, going beyond her normal times, skipping her lunch and breakfast and dinners to ensure that she does the work missing. So the productivity of that individual herself or himself has dropped, while the company is not seeing the impact. This is certainly going to have an impact long-term on the individual, and that is where a good HR role will come into play, where we will need to go and tell the leaders, the managers, saying that you need to understand that employee needs to be given a break. It needs to be actually told to have a calendar where there are going to be times which are going to be away from work. And how do you manage that? This is going to be some of the interesting aspects of the new world going forward. Okay, let me go back to Manoj, and let's talk about the talent acquisition. So how have you changed some of your talent acquisition practices over this? Obviously, most of us have gone online and all that. And more importantly, what challenge do you see when you have talent working completely remotely? How will you ensure that they remain engaged and they don't quickly keep on changing from one job to the other, and that whole attachment and engagement with your organization will continue? So some thoughts on that from Manoj?
So before you start, sorry to interrupt in between, I would like to mention this to all the attendees that in next 10 to 15 minutes, we will be having a group virtual picture. If any of you is interested, please raise your hand. I'll give you rights to switch on your camera. Thank you. So you can continue. Thank you.
Thanks, Samir, one of the important aspect of this time is very critical. That's a talent acquisition, how we are facing, especially when we are doing the campus hiring. So one was campus hiring at graduate engineer training and management training level, and second was at diploma holder level. So institutions, those were prepared for online and virtual assessments, go to market like all the facilities were there. But majority of the educational institutions are still not ready for these virtual assessments. Although there are tools which are available in the market through metal.com. So they have already invested huge, technology, the cost on in setting up these platforms where they can provide the link, and a lot of banking sector, they have already started using those platforms so that the right assessment and the kind of opportunity those candidates, they should not lose at this point of time. So that is how that bridge is created. And we have optimally utilized these platforms where we have achieved very significant results. As far as diploma holder like polytechnical institutions are there, we couldn't, get the support from the government institutions. They were not ready at all. So our teams had to go there, and maybe the candidates who were having their own gadgets, maybe the mobile, we allowed them to appear on, and the technology is available to that extent. Even, the candidates wants to cheat by looking at left and right. The artificial intelligence there that catches the candidate and give the warning on the screen itself to the candidate that he can be caught and he can be failed because of this, or maybe the rules which are already been conveyed to the candidates. So we have leveraged these technologies.
It seems some internet connection at Mr. Manoj's end.
Yeah, Manoj seems to be having some internet connections issues. So we have about a couple of minutes before we sort of open it for the panel for other Q&A and other people to go. So maybe I'll just go to you, Tanvi. Again, you have been talking a lot about skilling, different skilling of people needs to do. We also speak about sort of two concepts which we talk about from an old concept where what is called train to deploy. So you train him for deploying or whatever work he's supposed to do, to a new concept which is called train to remain relevant, that you need to be relevant from tomorrow. And that is where the message from us has to go to the management that this is where we are impacting the organization, not for today. You need to ensure that I have a person who is trained for tomorrow. Manoj, I see that you are back. I think we had lost you, so I just took over to add a few points before I give you a chance to complete your.
I'm really sorry.
No issues. We are used to this nowadays.
I'm operating from home, and everyone is utilizing the net. So there is a pressure on the net.
I think
that is also a challenge we all are facing these days.
Correct. So I was talking
about... we are also utilizing the platform where we can go for video interviews. The video interviews platforms are available where set of questions are given in advance to the candidates, especially at mid and senior level. So they answer all the questions, and the panel is free to see in their flexible time. It's not very fixed time, because during this time, there is a big pressure on the recovery, and leaders are spending a lot of huge time in strategizing how the recoveries can be made. So we are planning to give that time, flexi time, to our leaders so that they can see the videos of the candidates at their free time and within that specific time. And then accordingly, they can make their choices that who is the right person, rather than handling the interviews of 10 candidates. So they can go for 1 or 2 interviews on virtual platform, and the selection can be made easy. So that is what these inputs we are grabbing. So there are other technological aspects which are already available. So when we are sieving and filtering, so now there are better platforms with the help of machine learning and artificial intelligence. So both are embedded to create that virtual environment where what type of right fit, job fit, culture fit. So those platforms are able to pop up from the questions that is being asked on the videos, or those are available in the resume itself. So that is a very hybrid model that is also available. We are planning to utilize that because there is a good number of opportunities which are available in our emerging businesses. especially the airports that has been acquired recently, and the renewable energy that we are expanding, and we have the mandate to go to beyond 10,000 megawatt in the country. So those are the opportunities we are able to utilize only through technological platforms.
Yeah, interesting. I think most of us have adopted to some of these technology changes and all that. But I think one thing which has changed, especially in the industry which I operate in, which is the IT industry, where we're known for bulk of big hiring going on a regular basis, and people sort of joining, leaving on this thing, is that typical role of an HR in a lot of this industry, especially at the junior levels, used to be primarily limited to negotiation on salaries, looking at how he can join, looking at quick notice periods and things like that. But today, I think we are also looking at other aspects on saying that how is this person's alignment, his adaptability, which we both spoke about, Tanvi and I, his tenacity, his agility, able to do different things. So suddenly, I certainly see HR having a bigger vote in the whole hiring process vis-a-vis the earlier times. Because earlier it was primarily to fill the business requirements. So it's an interesting shift which we are seeing in the whole economy, and especially accepting the fact that we are going to go towards a gig economy, people working from anywhere, anytime, people sort of having two jobs in two different companies, saying that, hey, I only like to work in one particular domain or one particular area. Your company has work only enough for 4 hours for me or 6 hours for me. I want to use my next earlier 2 hours for some other company. So very interesting employment contracts are emerging. So we should see some very, very disruptive ways of working. What we are here calling out is something of a concept which is called a me enterprise. We are saying in the new world, every individual now is an enterprise by himself or herself. As an enterprise, the enterprise will work for or do some work as long as the value of my enterprise increases, or I as an enterprise benefit in the other way. And it is the responsibility of the organizations to make us, excuse me, to take benefit of me as an enterprise and to drive your business goals. That's the new world which we are seeing a shift to in the whole recruitment and the talent acquisition world. So, you want to take the picture?
Yeah, I would like to mention this, that it's time for a group picture now. So we have 12 people for the group picture. I would request everyone to please switch on your camera. If attendees still want to join for this group picture, you have another minute. I will add you. Yeah, so we are getting some more people for the group picture. Yes.
Good to see.
I would request all of you to please switch on your camera. We still have people in the group for group picture who have not yet switched on their camera. Yes. Yeah, so I think that's a nice frame. Now I would request everyone to smile and say shine. You can also switch on your mic.
Shine.
Shine. Shine.
So let's say it together and let's capture it again.
Shine.
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 1, 2,
Shine.
3.
Shine.
Here we go.
Shine.
Shine.
Yeah, so that's a great picture that we have. We will definitely share with you all. Thank you. You guys can switch off your camera now. In case you want to speak to our panelist, please do let us know. We will add you again. Sameer sir, you can continue.
Sure. Okay. So let's quickly look if we have any questions in the Q&A panel which people would like to know about. Maybe let's try
One
to
of the
answer.
question, Samir, I found somebody has asked about how OD can contribute during this time.
Sure.
OD and L&D.
Sure. I think L&D contributions everybody has covered in different ways. With Tanvi, you want to talk about the role of OD in these times? Tanvi, you want to?
Sorry, Samir, I got bumped out of video. I couldn't hear you. If you could repeat the question.
The role of OD in these times and how OD can impact lead the recovery.
Organized business.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. No, so absolutely. And, I do think, OD does play a very important role. We've talked about OD in multiple aspects: change management, innovation, creating the right business impact, changing the culture of the organization. And I'll tell you one thing that we have used as a practical example. What we realized through the pandemic is we can't have centralization of decision making. We had to fragment the decision making at the junior most level in the organization for us to be agile enough to deal with the different situations that were faced by our clients and our employees on the ground every day. And like I said, 30-40% of our employee base probably never worked from home. They continued to work on site, supporting our clients through the entire pandemic. Now, in that situation, you can't have all the decision making coming to the top of the house because you needed it to be a lot more agile. So one of the pieces we did is we actually focused a lot on developing our site level employees on basic design thinking principles and using that in their day-to-day work. And our initial focus was on people managers, but we've now cascaded it down to individual contributors as well. So we work with the Luma design thinking program, and there are simple tools there that can be very powerful in the hands of these employees who are serving clients at the point of interaction and impact with them. So a simple example I'll give is there is a tool called Rose Thorn Bud that is introduced as part of this training. Now, all it does is you can get your team meeting together and you can ask them once a week, tell us what was the rose, thorn, and bud. So what worked is the rose, what didn't work is the thorn, and what can be better, what are opportunities that we haven't thought about in the past is the bud that we have. Now, a people manager at a site level, having this tool that they can use to really think about ideas, creating those small innovations, etc., can have a big impact on how our clients see our services and how we are reacting much faster in spite of all the challenges, pandemic, etc., etc. And for me, that itself was a big OD intervention, if I may say that, because it has changed the way we do things at a very grassroots level. We've given tools, and the example I gave was a very simple example, but there are multiple tools available through the design thinking a learning program that we have launched that allow people to use those tools for appropriate things and think about these small innovations and empower that person who's interacting with clients to actually be able to improve their processes and provide a better experience to our clients, which in turn also impacts employee experience, because suddenly the empowerment is going into the hands of the employees. They feel like, they are in that decision-making position and are making a direct impact, which also improves their ownership, their accountability, their responsibility in some of these interactions. So, I think these kind of learning programs which impact a very large base and in turn our customer experience can be really, really powerful in such situations.
Yeah, thanks, Tanvi. So just to add to this, Udi, or the organizational development, I think what Tanvi spoke about, that decentralization has been one of the very important keys, changes which has happened because of this pandemic. It has given us an opportunity to really identify, unearth lot of leaders, lot of capable people whom otherwise because of the centralization were hidden. I think this is what we need to really leverage on and try to broad base and to spread the whole capability matrix which we have. So how do you look at people, try to reduce your hierarchies, try to reduce the number of layers of people. So these are different things which Udi and L&D together, I believe, can do to impact a business in the future too. I see another question here is about conducting assessments. So conducting assessments and interviews is going to be a big obstacle while getting into virtual hiring. What's recruiters' best practice to overcome traditional approach of conducting assessment face-to-face? Manoj, I think you spoke quite a lot on the whole assessments piece. Maybe you want to add to this particular question from Sumit?
Another question was that how artificial intelligence helps in virtual assessment platforms. So virtual platforms like where the database is already available and the candidate has already given the video interview. So there artificial intelligence combined with machine learning. So what human will learn and observe, that machine is learning, and machine is how many machine learns and who predicts, that's the artificial intelligence that pops up, that what we are looking for and what exactly that is matching. So that is helped by the machine, so that the human beings as an assessor or as a panelist, we get to know that what we are looking and that matches. For example, suppose there are psychometric tests that is available. So the candidate has submitted his psychometric test. He has already given his video interview. Now where the repository is going. So that platforms that helps the panelist to understand what he's talking and what his profile is exactly. With the help of artificial intelligence, that gives us the database that where the candidate is, what exactly the candidate is talking about and where what he has exactly written and what we are actually looking for. That's a job fit, culture fit, everything gets popped out. So those are the platforms which are available, and you can actually see that which are the psychometric tests that is embedded with the latest gadgets, latest platforms, and then you can actually see that what human beings as a panelist, what we use to interpret and predict. So that is exactly done by the machine learning and artificial intelligence together. It's not independent of it. So those platforms are already available.
Sure. So thanks, Manoj. I'll take the next question. What are the new innovative sourcing channels that your organizations are using to find the right talent pool? So let me give you my points and maybe then Tanvi, you can add your points too. So as a part of the earlier discussion, Tanvi also spoke about the changes in the diversity and looking at it. So one innovative thing which we have done and we have sort of, they said because of these changes, people working from home, especially when you look at the tech world, there have been a lot of women in the tech world who by choice or because of the circumstances have chosen to either not take up a job because it was difficult for them to come to office or they had some other challenges. Now they were sort of not in the place where the jobs were available for some reason. So we have launched a very interesting program. We called it Bring Her Back to Tech. So through this channel, we have been able to reach out to thousands of young qualified ladies across the country who suddenly see this as an opportunity for them to work, and using newer innovative models of even employment, saying that, hey, you need not be working full time. You may be working part-time. You may be saying that I have 2 hours of time in the morning, 2 hours of time in the evening. Sure, you give me 4 hours of your creative time and we will put it to good use and we will give you good employment. So these are one of the innovative ideas or innovative things which we are doing. I'm sure there are more and more such innovative things which are happening. Tanvi, maybe if you have something to add, then we'll move to the next question.
Yeah, no, definitely, Samir. I think there are lots of new things we're trying, and I think some things have been mentioned by you and Manoj, like virtual videos from possible candidates. How do we connect with them better? Some assessment tools that we're, also experimenting with. But I think one of the pieces that I'd like to share is we've refocused the whole attention on inclusion as well in talent acquisition, because we have realized that sometimes our unconscious biases are even more pronounced in a virtual setup than they are in a face-to-face setup, because you are not being able to get a sense of the person by meeting, seeing their body language, so on and so forth, and therefore your unconscious biases are actually a lot more pronounced in a virtual setup. So we've taken up this whole project of even retraining our people managers or hiring managers on what we called hiring right as our program for people managers, where we are taking them through, again, the fundamentals of our competencies, but also more importantly, how do you conduct good competency-based behavioral event interviews, focus on the basics and actually focus on the competencies that you're hiring for and not what you see, how the person is speaking, because not everybody, even today, in spite of almost a year of working virtually, may interact the same way virtually. I think the virtual channel is more tuned towards extroverts rather than introverts who may not be as comfortable speaking, on these channels. And we have to be careful of those innate biases that might exist, and how can we just be more inclusive in our approach to talent acquisition is something that we've been focusing on quite a bit. So this hiring right program for hiring managers is really enabling us to have a much better approach to hiring people in the right way.
Sure. So we have another question from Parikshit Wadhwa. What kind of jobs do you believe give more openness to work from home at all levels? Would you consider hiring more? And what roles would you slowly phase out, considering office setups may either become passe or reduce overall? I'm sure JLL wouldn't want that to happen, given but maybe Manoj, you want to take a shot at this?
Yeah, especially the back office jobs and the accounting jobs where the people can work on technology platforms. So those jobs are all support services, maximum number of people during this time. I have seen even 100% people who does not require the physical presence. That is more important to see if the question that gentleman has asked. What is that job that requires physical presence, except the hospital or the where the medical attention is required, or a factory premises where the machines are there? You can't take the employee out of that place where people can work on computer and still can be there. So we have already come out with our policies that how we are going to support employees by having the infrastructure, the table, chair, and the internet expenses. So we have already released our policies, and from 10%, I'm sure now HODs are ready to release 25%, and 50% of the employees whom we have suggested, they can work from home. So now they come for 50% time and 50% they stay at home. Almost 100% people are operating like that, and we are still encouraging. So that saves the time, especially a city like Mumbai. So they save the commuting time. It takes a lot more time for the employees to come, and especially the local trains. Nobody wants to travel by that. And the traffic on the road, that saves huge time. And people are available. Their productivity has gone, and we all have witnessed during this time.
Sure.
Okay. Well, Samir, I can't let go this opportunity to comment on this topic because I do have very, strong views on this. But, and I would say it a little bit differently. What Manoj has said, while Manoj, you started from saying people are working from home, we are encouraging, but it is that 50% mix. And, for Parikshit, who has written this comment, Parikshit, I think the value of offices or what people do in offices is going to change. But I don't think offices are going to become passe or reduce overall, because I think, for many of us who have learned organization culture, we all know Edgar Schein's model, and we know that third circle, which talks about behavior and artifacts, which are the visible manifestations of the culture, etc. I think from the time when this pandemic started to much later in time, we started seeing dip in productivity because people were completely disconnected from the office space. And I think what we are going to see is a hybrid model of working, in which there will be people who work from home, but there will also be the same people who will work in offices, but not all the time. But for part of the time, work from home and partly work in offices. And we're seeing that as more and more of the reality, even basis what Manoj said, people working 50% in office, 50% at home maybe. And offices are going to change and become more hubs to drive innovation, collaboration, collaborative working. So you're not going to come into office, sit on your computer and just do work. It's going to be a place to interact, ideate, connect, etc. And the work that you probably need to do sitting in front of your computer can be done pretty much from anywhere today and not necessarily from offices. So I think there is going to be a balance that's going to come up because we are social animals. And I think, only working remotely, we've seen is not something that is good for us. And going back to wellness, we've seen huge impacts of that on wellness for people as well. So I think it's going to be a hybrid model, which is going to be here to stay. And offices are going to transform into something much different than what they have been in the past.
So good points. I think you have covered all the points. In fact, I had a few points. I think you have covered all them. But let me add two sort of thoughts to it. One, we have all been using WhatsApp. Have we stopped going out and meeting our friends before the pandemic? I didn't we do that. We still wanted to meet the friends and chat with us. We could have done all that using the WhatsApp of the world and the collaborative tools of the world. So it is going to be a hybrid world where you're going to get the best of both worlds going further. Another thought which is my personal thought, of which I believe, that what we are currently going through, majority of people working from home, is plan B. It was never plan A. If plan A, that people actually could work from home, always would have been there, I think we would have never have had these whole big, huge offices and these spaces and all. They would have never been constructed. It's only a matter of time that we will go back to our plan A, which is that majority of people coming back to office. But when it is going to be, is it going to be in the next 6 months, or it's going to take another year and a half? That's something which is anybody's guess today. With this, I think we have already passed time. Maybe quick 30 seconds comments from you, Manoj.
Samir, there is one point which one gentleman has asked. I think David has asked what L&D can do differently during this time. I'll just have one thought on that. People have to take their stretch targets during this time. So whatever routine targets people used to take now, so maybe there is a time to have the performance reviews on quarterly basis or on monthly basis also for certain people whose contribution is dependent upon the bottom line of the organization. So those targets are going to put a lot of pressure on the employees. So change management agenda with stretch targets, maybe you have to see the comp and ben differently, but from L&D point of view, the readiness for the people and the kind of psychological pressure the people have to undergo during this time. So that is the major change maker from the L&D point of view. Then definitely there is a reskilling and upskilling that is required, because they one notch up, it's not the business that is going, it's a recovery that has to recover. So if the recovery field is much higher, so what is that behavioral aspect, and people have to undergo that pressure. So maybe a psychological, coaches are required for more personal counseling, and coaching is also required. There could be a resistance because there are three major hurdles that has been seen by the study. So one is the HR department itself, HR staff itself having the deficiencies of critical skills. So how L&D can bridge those skills so that HR is equipped. For example, if you have the designation of HR business partner, can you think of renaming that department so that psychologically people are ready to call it business enabler leaders? So business enablement leaders, they will have the entire dimension that they are for the business, not for the HR itself. That synergy between business and HR will come automatically. The overcommitment will be there by the all production people or the field people. So how the L&D can bridge that gap of overcommitments and over rather than over promise and under delivering. So how the recovery can take place from that point of view. There can be organizational resistance also. So how the L&D can look at these nuances and dimensions. So those are the few couple of things I thought, let me just help David to take it through.
Sure. Tanvi, last 30 seconds for you, closing comments before I sort of close it and hand over to Vasundhara.
Right, Sameer, so very, very short, but I think, what you spoke in the opening, I think, coming back to bounce back and how HR can lead it, I think we've talked about multiple aspects of acquisition, talent management, learning and development, OD, so many areas that we can really use to drive our impact in the business. And I think my biggest call out to all HR professionals is please reach out, connect, support one another, but let's not leave this opportunity to make an even bigger impact in the business through this function. And this is an opportunity we definitely shouldn't miss.
Absolutely. Couldn't I more agree with you, Tanvi, on this. This is a great opportunity for us. This is an opportunity where we can say that HR is not only just about saying that I'm going to be taking care of people or taking care of payroll or ensuring that I hire people and engagement and people experience and all that. It is also a point for us to say that HR also understands the business, and HR is also aligned to understanding how the actions which we take are going to be much more measurable in terms of the numbers, the revenue numbers, the margin numbers, which the business impacts. And that's where we need to really start looking at how the output of each individual in the organization really helps the business. If we can put it in these terms to the business leaders, we can really become a larger impact to the whole business and really lead the change from going further from here. With this, thank you to all the participants for joining. Thank you for all the questions. Thank you to my co-panelists, Manoj and Tanvi. It was a very interesting short debate discussions which we had. And I know I put in a spot by asking a few little tricky questions, but I think it came out very well. Thank you. So over to you, Vasundhara. Thank you for giving all of us this opportunity.
Thank you, sir. On behalf of Shine.com, I would like to thank our panelist and moderator today. Thanks everyone for being such a wonderful audience and making the session so much interactive. Recording of the webinar will be shared with all the attendees along with the feedback mail. Thanks everyone. This is Vasundhara signing off now.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you
Bye.
very much. Bye.